Morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, depending when you are joining us from. Thank you for joining us for this session. Welcome to day 5. I cannot believe it. We are at day 5 already, the final one of the Virtual Island Summit 2024. Thank you so much. It has been a fantastic summit so far. We have seen attendance from different regions of the globe, more than 500 islands represented on the registrations. So thank you so much for that. This is what makes Island Innovation continuing with all of the events that we hold every year. My name is Christian Zacchino. I am the Director of Operations at Island Innovation. I am an islander from Margarita Island in the beautiful Caribbean region, but I'm currently based on the beautiful coast of Vigo in Galicia in Spain. Before we start, because I know we have a lot of newcomers to the Virtual Island Summit, let me tell you a little bit about our organization, Island Innovation. We are a sustainable development consultancy, primarily focusing on islands. Our services include island development strategies, impact program design and coordination, capacity building, events, strategic communications, and government affairs. We are trusted by clients around the globe, and if you're interested in learning more about what we do, please reach out to us by using the contact information that is available in the chat. I am very happy to be presenting and moderating this session titled Overcoming Island Challenges, Food Production Through Sustainable Agriculture. But before we begin, you should see a poll appear now on your screen. Please let us know your gender, where you are connecting from, the sector and the industry you belong to. And you have some minutes to fill this out. And while you do, let me tell you something about the session. Islands face particular challenges when it comes to growing food. Limited resources, fragile ecosystems, and the ever-present threat of climate change demand innovative and sustainable agricultural solutions. In this session, we will have experts that will discuss island-specific strategies for building thriving food ecosystems, all of the challenges and opportunities of island agriculture, and more. Please make use of the chat function to introduce yourself and let us know where you are joining from. You can make any comments during the session and exchange some contact information as well. But please make sure that all of the questions are added to the Q&A box that you will see on the lower left of your Zoom app. We will try to address as many questions as possible upon the Q&A part of the session. Let me just quickly glance here at the chat and see everyone from Manchester, the UK, Portugal, Vanuatu again, North Macedonia, welcome, Canada, the Philippines, Alberta, Canada, welcome, from Hawaii, of course, thank you so much, Mauritius, Switzerland, Canary Islands, the Philippines again, Mallorca in Spain, Fiji. Thank you so much, everyone, for your participation. Before we start the session, let's check out the poll results right now. All right, so we have basically an even split between male and female, and we have a lot of people from different regions in the globe. Let me check this out. So we have 26% of North America. So you're up quite early in North America. Thank you so much. We have the Pacific with 12%, Asia with 12% as well, the Indian Ocean with 5%. Thank you so much for your participation. I even see a couple of people from the Caribbean. So thank you so much. Super early there. Regarding the sector, we have most of you from the private sector, 47%, but followed by the NGO sector with 33% and the academia sector with 16%. The industry that you belong to, we have here, most of you are from the agriculture sector, which makes sense due to the topic of the session, but it's an even tie with environmental services and oceans conservation. And we also have people from finance, energy, and circular economy. Thank you so much. All right. So before we start, let me add some introductory remarks. Islands, as we know, are often isolated very far away from any mainland and with limited land resources. Islands face unique challenges in ensuring food security. We will explore innovative strategies and sustainable agricultural practices that can help overcome these obstacles. Some of the topics that islands face in agriculture um, are very related to the following: agroecology and island resilience, so we can understand the principles of agroecology and how they can be applied to island ecosystems to enhance resilience and productivity. Organic farming and permaculture. This explores the benefit of organic farming and permaculture techniques for sustainable food production on islands. Aquaculture and integrated farming systems. This is the potential of these technologies to maximize resource utilization and diversified food sources. Community-supported agriculture and local food initiatives, and also addressing climate change adaptation and mitigation. In this session, we will gain a deeper understanding of the unique challenges faced by island communities in terms of food production, exploring innovative, sustainable agriculture practices that can be implemented on islands, learning about the benefits of agroecology, organic farming, permaculture, aquaculture, community-supported agriculture, and mitigating the impacts of climate change. It is my pleasure to welcome our first speaker for today, our first keynote speaker, Senator Mike Gabbard from the island of Hawaii. He is the chairman of the Agriculture Committee. Senator, the floor is all yours. Thank you so much.
Hello, Mike Kako, and mahalo for the opportunity to speak today at this important virtual island event. And also talofa lava to my family and friends in Samoa and American Samoa. So as an island state, Hawaii faces unique challenges in food security and sustainability. Our isolated location and fragile ecosystems compel us to think innovatively and collectively and ensure that our food systems are resilient in the face of climate change. So to put things in context, Hawaii's total land area on its 8 islands is about 4.1 million acres, and about 1.9 million acres are designated as ag lands in the state agricultural district. So that's over 1 million acres identified as not being in agricultural use, although this includes an unknown number of acres with little to no potential for ag use, such as lava flows, rocky, sandy, and mountainous lands. So what are the challenges that we face in food security and sustainability and the solutions? One of the main issues we face, as I pointed out in my remarks at the 2022 Island Summit, is that we're still importing 85 to 90% of our food at a cost of about $3 billion each year, even though we have a year-round growing season and a huge amount of vacant designated ag land. It's been estimated that if planes and ships stop bringing in our food because of a natural disaster, a labor strike, or whatever, we only have about a 10-day food supply in our grocery stores to feed our people. So reducing Hawaii's reliance on food imports by increasing local food production is crucial for boosting food security, lowering costs, and addressing environmental challenges. Locally grown food offers health benefits and economic opportunities, including job creation and the attraction of younger generations to agriculture. So key strategies to support local farming include providing affordable land, ensuring water access, offering training, and helping farmers to navigate business challenges. Also restoring our fish ponds and addressing island-specific challenges such as shipping costs and high land prices, and also essential, that's essential for strengthening Hawaii's food system. Other challenges include water, farm labor, transportation, invasive species, crop insurance and disaster relief, research and development, access to funding, food safety, marketing and competitiveness, taxation and fees, environmental challenges, ag tech solutions, urbanization, natural disasters, and of course, the lack of ag housing. So, what is the overall solution and the game plan? There's a popular Hawaiian saying, it's a kako thing, which means we're all in this together and everyone is invited to participate. That's exactly what we must do to find the answers to the predicament that we're in. Today, I'm proud to share some of the transformative work happening in Hawaii that exemplifies the spirit of innovation and collaboration needed for island communities around the world. One of our most significant undertakings is a project called Transforming Hawaii's Food System Together Initiative. This is a statewide effort that brings together stakeholders from agriculture, academia, policy, and community organizations. This initiative, it seeks to redesign our food system to prioritize sustainability, resilience, and equity. It emphasizes local food production, integrates indigenous knowledge, and strengthens Hawaii's food security by reducing our reliance on imported food. So by focusing on regenerative agriculture, agroforestry, forestry, and soil health, we're building a food system that not only feeds our people, but it also heals our land. This initiative is now being integrated into a national community of practice of food system planning efforts, and it's led by our very own University of Hawaii's Dr. Albie Miles and his colleagues at the Michigan State University Center for Regional Food Systems. And supporting this is the work of the University of Hawaii System and the K.O. Miles Center for Sustainable Island Food Systems. This center is a hub for research, education, and community engagement, advancing cutting-edge science and policy around sustainable agriculture, food security, and climate resilience. The K.O. Miles Center helps empower local farmers and communities by providing access to knowledge and tools that foster innovation while honoring the rich cultural traditions of our native Hawaiian ancestors. So through these efforts, we are nurturing the next generation of leaders in sustainable food systems, ensuring that Hawaii remains at the forefront of island agriculture solutions. Now, I want to mention 3 examples of how Hawaii is dealing with the challenges of food security and sustainability facing us today. First, it was in 2015, a farm-to-school program was created to encourage Hawaii's 296 public schools to use fresh, locally grown foods for their breakfast and lunch programs. In 2021, the legislature passed a law mandating that 30% of the food consumed at public schools would be locally sourced by the year 2030. Okay, what's the reality check? It's 2024, and the latest data from 2022 says that public schools are at only 6%. Now, can we reach the 30% goal by 2030? And why aren't we on target? Stay tuned. The second example is an awesome addition to Hawaii is the Wahiwa Value Added Product Development Center, which is a 33,000 square foot manufacturing facility in central Oahu. It's a resource for food entrepreneurship and education. They also offer product development, consulting services, lab testing, and production kitchens. They serve ag producers, processors, entrepreneurs, farmers, and students. You know, imagine being a farmer and you've got a ton of papayas or breadfruit or pineapple, and you can't sell it all at the farmer's market or grocery store. So what do? Just feed the pigs or throw it all away? So here's an opportunity to use excess produce to make jams, jellies, or whatever, value added, right? And with the Hawaii label, with the hula girl dancing under the coconut tree, how are mainland U.S. products going to compete with what we have here in Hawaii? And third, although I mentioned this in my 2022 speech, it's worth highlighting again. If you haven't looked into Ma'o Farms, I urge you to check it out. One of the biggest problems we have in Hawaii is not enough farmers. And the average age of our farmers is 60.1 years old. So what's the solution? Well, of course, grow more farmers. And that's precisely what Ma'o Farms is doing. They have a 2-year youth leadership training program where young people ages 18 to 25, they're invited to work as interns 3 days a week from dawn until noon. And then they go to university 2 days a week. And the interns, they learn all aspects of organic, regenerative farming, planting, harvesting, distribution, and marketing. Each intern receives a monthly stipend of $525, which can actually go up to $725. And listen carefully now. For interns who want a college or university degree, they get their tuition paid for. So Ma'o Farms has grown from an initial 5-acre plot leased in 2001 to currently 381 acres. You know, I'll never forget on one of my many site visits to the farm, I met a young man who was kicked out of school, kicked out of his home for using drugs. He told me he considered to continue hanging out with his druggy friends and getting into a life of crime. But then he heard about Ma'o's youth leadership training program, and he told me that he had completed the requirements and he was getting ready to graduate. And he said to me, "Senator, I'm not bragging, but I'm an expert in all aspects of certified organic farming. And now I'm ready to help my people." And with tears on his cheeks, he said to me, "My mission in life now is to feed my people. I want people to be able to buy fresh organic fruits and veggies from the back of my truck at the farmer's market on Saturday instead of paying higher prices at the grocery store." And then at that point, of course, tears were were welling up in my eyes, and then we both started hugging each other. So please check them out at maoorganicfarms.org. Well, better yet, come to Hawaii and see firsthand what this amazing program is all about. So in closing, I want to emphasize that the solutions that we're developing in Hawaii are not just for Hawaii. They are for all islands and vulnerable communities worldwide. By integrating modern science with traditional ecological knowledge, by working collaboratively across sectors, and by holding sustainability as our highest priority, we're building food systems that are not only resilient to the challenges of today, but are also capable of thriving in the uncertain future ahead. I warmly welcome you to join Hawaii in these important food system transformation initiatives. Please feel free to contact me if you would like more information. You can reach me at the Hawaii State Legislature. So mahalo nui loa, and I look forward to continuing this important dialogue with all of you. Together, we can lead the way toward a more sustainable and resilient future for all island communities. Aloha.
Thank you so much, Senator. It was a remarkable speech as usual. We are glad to have you here with us. Thank you so much. It's
Thank
so
you. Thank you, Christian.
to hear what's happening in Hawaii, beautiful archipelago that has a lot of potential, but also a lot of hardships that you are able to encompass and change all of those hardships into something good. It's always a pleasure to hear that. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Right. So next up on our session, we have Minister Claire Barber. She is the Minister for Food, Environment, and Agriculture at the Government of the Isle of Man. Welcome, Minister. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, and morimai to everyone. Let me just get my screen. Hopefully everyone can see that. So we just really wanted to start. I was really keen to talk a little bit about the Isle of Man, and it's great to see the enthusiasm for Hawaii, a place I've not had the fortune to visit, but I imagine many of the people watching may not have visited us here on the Isle of Man either. I thought a little map might help because it's fair to say many people confuse us with other small islands, and I don't know if other islands experience that, but we're a small self-governing crown dependency in the middle of the Irish Sea, so almost directly actually between England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. And we really have a lot of focus around agriculture and also our seas as well. We're 35 miles long and 17 miles wide. Depending whether the tide's in or out, which can make a big difference for us here. But you're certainly never more than 7 miles from the sea. And we're really fortunate in that regard. We're really rich in terms of our outstanding natural environment, unique history and culture, and a really safe environment. And with plentiful water, stocked seas, and also fertile farmland, all of which present us with huge opportunities. But absolutely, we recognise that there are challenges as we transition into the modern world, working with climate change, actually for the betterment of our production ability. We're also the only entire nation biosphere reserve as per UNESCO in the world. And we hope that some of you in your islands may seek to become the equivalent, and we can become a team of entire nation UNESCO biosphere reserves, which would be a really exciting prospect. So just in terms of the Isle of Man farming and our food sector, with 97,000 acres across the island in our farming system, around 24,000 acres is rough hill grazing, 8,500 acres of arable production, including the pulses for animal feed, and then 250 acres for horticulture and 64,000 acres of grassland. Livestock farming is our predominant farming system, and we are really fortunate to have good farming infrastructure with a flour mill, a creamery that's run as a cooperative, and a 3-species abattoir. And it's really vital, actually, being an island, because we are so reliant, especially when the boats can't go, on being able to utilise our own facilities. However, it's fair to say that the increased costs of that stretch of water, which is about 150 kilometres, but can present a real barrier in terms of cost, both of importing feeds and fertilizers if we haven't sufficient on the island, and also the opportunity for exporting. So there's around 14 million litres worth of dairy product that we export annually around the world, really successfully. And some of you may have come across our exceptional Isle of Man cheese, actually in your islands, because we know it's got a really good reach. And around 60 to 70% of the meat produced on the island is also exported. We do financial support payment schemes, and we also have an agri-environment scheme, which I'll talk a little bit about in a moment. And 85% of our territorial space is also sea, and I think it's really important to remember, on top of sustainable agriculture, we also need sustainable fisheries, and our fisheries policy is really heavily founded as well in sustainability. We've really had some successes in that regard, and we've got the record around most sustainably managed wild caught king scallop fisheries in the British Isles, and we've also been recognised by the Marine Conservation Society for our queen scallops and the sustainable management of those. All of which I think are accolades that show that you can absolutely have a thriving sector, but also do that in a way that's sustainably managed and protecting the supplies for future, because there's no good taking today everything only to leave the children and grandchildren of tomorrow with nothing there for them. It's fair to say we do have challenges, and I'm imagining, certainly from the previous speaker, that many of them are similar. We talk about food security and insecurity, and the regular sailings can be a challenge. And if we reflect back to the time of COVID, we really did see there just how exposed we were in terms of being able to import foods and have shortages that really did affect our people. What we saw, though, was a coming together of our farmers, and we saw a real flip in terms of the public mood and desire to buy and support local. What the challenge now is sustaining that, making sure that becomes the norm, and there's a number of things that we're doing in that regard. In terms of profitability, we do have some great opportunities. We are blessed with a mild climate, and that allows us to really focus on things like grass-fed branding, and our creamery really focus on that as part of their product. And part of our heritage is around fishing and farming. So many parts of our community focus in on farming, and I think the fact that majority of people know someone who work in that industry means that it's a little bit easier in some ways to build those links with people and their food. And we also know that buying, local, sustainable, seasonal food absolutely is good for our health. And that messaging is really important when we look at education, and we get that messaging through. One of the challenges we can have is trade agreements. Being a Crown dependency, we are dependent on trade agreements that are established by the British government. And certainly that's been the case recently with a trade agreement. I saw we have a colleague on from Canada. Because of the ongoing negotiations, that has been something that has affected some of our local producers. And we are working with the UK for a solution, but we're not able to be autonomous in that regard. So that can be a challenge for us, and one we have to overcome. In terms of the environment, we all have challenges protecting and maintaining and improving our environment. And being the world's only UNESCO nation, whole biosphere, I think gives us that real focus on sustainable development and really making sure that we are in the right place for the future. And we can boast that we have many, many hedgerows, and we really do across our island. I'd encourage anyone to come and visit, but we also have an ever-increasing list of rare and protected species, and that's absolutely vital that we are embracing that through our agricultural and fisheries work. And climate change, we know, presents a challenge for all of us, whether it be through ferry disruption, whether it be through challenges to our energy supplies, whether it be how we deliver our broader health and education systems. We know that there are challenges within climate change, and the increases in storms, drier periods, heavy rainfalls, that disruption really does affect our farming communities. And we've seen that this year, where many of us have commented we're still waiting for summer to arrive over here. So, wish us luck. From some of you may have a little bit more sunshine than we have this year. But I think what's really exciting is the opportunities. So we've got an agri-environment scheme that's been introduced for a number of years now. And just recently within that scheme, we've actually introduced a soil health initiative that's done through an app-based technology, the Soil Mentor app, and also a farm carbon auditing initiative. And that was done in partnership with our local Wildlife Trust NGO, but also with our Manx National Farming Union. Ensuring that the calculator, the farm carbon calculator we built, was something that everyone could work with. And that's being rolled out, and farmers are being rewarded for their use of it. And that allows us also to gather information. And that ties in really with that technology, using those app-based systems, supporting farmers to implement that technology on their farms, being able to monitor weather events, and also GPS systems around precision farming and some of the innovations within the dairy sector. All of those things have been, real opportunities within the technology sector. We also recognise the power of knowledge sharing, both on our island with peer-to-peer knowledge sharing programs, but also, off our island, because we recognise that many of the challenges that are faced by us here on our small island, the Isle of Man, are not dissimilar to some of those that may be on the bigger islands such as Hawaii. And it's absolutely right that we all work together as best as we can. And we see, innovation opportunities. There's always new ideas, new ways to capture energy from the practices we're already doing. And it's absolutely right that we invest in that. And we do that on the island through various ways in terms of environmental investment, through grant investment for innovation-based ideas, but also around nature-based funding solutions that we're looking into at the minute, and really trying to pair the value of the economy that has a desire to invest in those nature-based funding solutions and the farmers who have the absolute ability to deliver those benefits to us all. We also know that there's an opportunity in branding and marketing. That whole island biosphere nation really is an important part of our marketing, but also just the grass-fed, the way in which we're farming. We haven't gone to the intensive farming, so actually we're in a really strong position to be able to talk about the benefit that our farmers bring, and the fact that when we see our rolling hills and our livestock grazing, our beautiful seas with our fishing boats out there, that's because of the guys and girls who go out every day bringing the food into our island. And I would just say we recognise as well the importance of education, not just of those who are at school, but that lifelong learning. We all have things to learn, how we can better support our local food production to protect us against those risks of insecurity when food isn't available to be brought in. And we have a real focus on increasing the amount of food production on island. So just in terms of what we're doing, we've had some really exciting work. So as a result of the work on the agri-environment scheme, this is a silver lapwing trophy that's actually a UK-based trophy for farmers who've managed to build a profitable business, but also while really going the extra mile to protect and value the countryside and wildlife. And that was won by a local dairy farmers on the Isle of Man this year. So they won our local competition. They went to the UK competition. We won't mention we're not actually part of the UK, but we still managed to see that trophy brought back by two of our farmers who've really demonstrated that they can support the environment, be profitable, support both families and support their staff, but also be a showcase, not just to the Isle of Man, but further afield. And as I say, that was really underpinned by the work of the Agri-Environment Scheme that's absolutely focused on delivering farmers that support so that they can develop their farms while looking after soils, carbon and water. And, I think that really underpins where we're at in terms of making sure that the support schemes are in the right place. And all of this will be brought together. We're currently developing a food security and agriculture strategy that's fit for the future. We'll tie all of these pieces of work together and ensure that the initiatives that are in place now are embedded for the future, but that we're always learning. And I think that brings me on really to my final point, and that's how we can work together. And I found, some of the sessions that have been on over the period of this summit really valuable in terms of seeing just how similar we actually all are. And I would absolutely be keen to engage and continue that conversation. And if anyone wants to reach out, if they'd like to visit the island, absolutely, we would be very interested to share some of our success stories with you. And also, ultimately, we all want to collaborate and work towards sustainable food systems for us all. So, thank you everyone for your time. It's a little whistle-stop tour in a short time, but I look forward to hearing from the rest of the speakers.
Thank you so much, Minister, for your remarks. They were outstanding, and hoping to visit the Isle of Man in the future. It's a beautiful place. To anyone here on the chat that hasn't had the opportunity, please go and visit the Isle of Man. Beautiful place, and I'm glad that you are doing a lot of things to boost agriculture in a sustainable way. So thank you so much. All right, so next up on our panel, we have Dr. Dami Sinanan, the Executive Director of the Caribbean Export Development Agency. And we are very glad with your participation. It's so early in the Caribbean, but he wanted to join live to be here on this session with us. Thank you so much for that. It's always nice to have the Caribbean represented. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Christian, and pleasant good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you're from. I see we have a very diverse audience from across the world. It's always good to reach out and connect with one another, even though we are oceans apart. And, I'm here and I'm listening to the presentation made by Senator Gabbard and Honorable Minister Barber, and what they said is absolutely true. We, as island states, we all face same challenges. We face similar challenges when it comes to food security and food production. We can certainly learn a lot from each other. And, that is the value of virtual island summit like this, that we can get together, share our experiences, learn from one another, and improve the lives of island states like ourselves. So my organization, Caribbean Export Development Agency, we are the lead private sector development agency for the Caribbean region. And our mandate covers 15 territories, what we call the 14 CARICOM states, and the Dominican Republic. And that's a gamut of a lot of countries of various sizes, most of which are small island developing states. I saw in our participants, we have a colleague who is from St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Kitts and Nevis has a population of just under 50,000. So like all small island developing states in the Caribbean region, we face a number of challenges when it comes to food production. For example, limited land space. The Caribbean region has less than 0.1 hectares dedicated to agriculture compared to the 0.27, which is the global hectares, which is the global average. The Caribbean territories, because we're all coastal and small island developing states, we suffer severely from soil degradation. It was estimated that over 60% of arable land in the Caribbean is affected by erosion and overall degradation. We can bring up, of course, everybody knows the issues with climate change. I mean, earlier this year, we had Hurricane Beryl, which became the fastest Category 5 hurricane on record ever in history. And it devastated islands in Grenada to the tune of over $220 million in damage. That seriously impacts upon agriculture and our ability to feed our people. You look at some scientific facts. I mean, coastal salinity, the salt levels in Barbados here, where I'm based, has risen 20% over the past decade. And this is affecting our ability to produce crops. And as a result of that, food imports in the Caribbean region, like my colleague from Hawaii just mentioned, is some of the highest in the world. Over 90% of our food is imported. And that puts us, in a very vulnerable position. Just like Minister Barber said, when we had the COVID-19 pandemic, supply lines were cut off. And, there were some countries that were having issues getting access to basic food because of these supply chain disruptions. Even the weather, I mean, we're experiencing some bad weather over the last month in the Caribbean region. And I myself, for the past month, for the past 2 weeks, have not been able to find a tomato on the shelves. And that's a fact, in the shelves in the supermarket. So we have to look at how can we reduce our food import bill, because it's over US $6 billion annually. And we have to look at investments as well, investments in agriculture. Right now in the Caribbean region, foreign direct investments into agriculture is currently less than 1% of our GDP, which is far less than the global average. So there's a lot of gaps when it comes to the Caribbean region and food production and food security. So what are we doing about it? The governments in the Caribbean region, what we call the CARICOM territories, have bought on to the idea and bought on to the concept of what we call 25 by 25. They have committed to reducing our food import bill by 25% by the year 2025. And each country, we have to remember, we're talking about a number of diverse countries, so it can't be a one-size-fits-all approach. What can work for a small island of 50,000 people like Dominica will not work for a large country like Jamaica, which has over 4 million people. So each island is coming up with their own strategy to reduce their food import bills. And Caribbean Export Development Agency, the organization I lead, is responsible from a private sector point of view to ensuring that that mandate is met. So what are we doing? Well, first of all, we have to invest very heavily in agroecology. How can we utilize modern techniques such as crop rotation, such as organic farming, which we can invest in, what we've invested in has provided a 30% increase in yields, in crop yields. Can we promote these types of techniques amongst our firms through training, through technical assistance, and through grant funding? We have to look at precision agriculture, utilizing the agri-technologies that exist in developed countries, and we bring that to our developing countries. Things like drones, things like apps to measure crop yields, to better improve the efficiency of the farming that we do. And Caribbean Export is promoting this very heavily amongst our private sector. We have to look at modern techniques such as hydroponics and vertical farming. Farming can no longer be for the rural areas. We have to bring it into the urban areas through things like container farming. And I'd really like to highlight some of the work done by companies such as Island Growers in Trinidad and Tobago, where I'm from, where I'm originally from, because they are utilizing container farming to sort of experiment to introduce greater crop yields and contribute to 25 by 25. We have to look at producing food within the region. So in the Caribbean region, we have, like I said, most of them are small island developing states, but we have countries like Guyana, like Suriname, like Belize, like the Dominican Republic, that have larger land spaces. And their leaders have committed to investing in farming that can move throughout the region so we can make the region food secure as much as possible. And I really must commend them for that effort. And we have to support those efforts as much as we can, sort of that regional cooperation and partnerships. We think that is of absolute importance. And lastly, we have to support our small farmers, especially in the vulnerable communities, our women farmers and our youths. In the Caribbean region, the average age of a farmer is over 50 years old. We have to get our young people excited about farming and so that they can enter the sector. And their young people are excited about things that I just mentioned. things like agri-technology, things like container farming, scientific methods. This excites them. If we can introduce that at a very early age and continue to build that capacity, we can see more young people and more youth interested in going into farming. And lastly, I would like to mention investments. So Caribbean Export Development Agency is working very hard to bring investments into the Caribbean region. And we host our annual Caribbean Investment Forum that takes place every year. The last forum was held just a couple of months ago in Guyana, where we attract investors from around the world to invest in sustainable agriculture in the Caribbean region. But not just invest in terms of money, but also invest in terms of knowledge, invest in terms of technology, invest in terms of tools and techniques. That's what we need to do. We need to learn from each other, and we need to encourage bringing that type of innovation into our small island developing states. And I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy to learn about what other small islands are doing, because I think we can work with each other to learn from each other and to inspire each other to invest in farming and to make sure that all our territories can improve our food security. So I will stop there for now, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. And I thank you all very much. I have a lot of energy for 3:42 a.m., so I'm probably going to crash when the panel is finished. But thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Damie, for your intervention. It has been fantastic. Glad to have the Caribbean represented here today. Now, next up on our lineup, we have Jerry Spooner, the Executive Director of Regenerative Vanua, live from Vanuatu. Jerry, the floor is all yours.
All right. Hi, Christian. With regards to my problem, freezing, so should I just go ahead? Oh, okay.
Yes, we will use the placard.
Okay, all right. So yeah, Christian, thank you for giving us the opportunity to participate in this innovative conversation this evening. So my name is Jerry Spooner, and I'm a co-founder of the non-for-profit organization Regenerative Vanua. And also, as mentioned by Christian, I'm the executive director for the organization. I'm not sure if I'm able to share. No, okay. I'll just carry on, sorry. So a key objective of what we do as a non-for-profit organization is provide support to resilient self-determining Vanuas. For those of you that aren't familiar with the word Vanua in the Pacific, Vanua is a term used that is that means land, place, home, that basically encompasses everything within it, within a specific defined area. The culture, the people living within it, the ecosystem. So for indigenous locals that we've been working with, identifying their place, being able to encourage them to use their traditional knowledge in what we do with them is very key and has proven success. So I'm going to be touching a bit on that this evening, and also highlighting how that is linked to the topic for this evening. So we work with those Vanuas, or for the Western Western term, I think we're more used to communities. But here in Vanuatu and the Pacific, Vanua is commonly used, and the local indigenous communities are used to it. So what we do is we work with those communities that want, that are interested in holding on to their traditional knowledge. We help them create stories around their farms through agritourism experiences that are introduced into their small farms within their communities. And the key from that is, and that we found from the rollout of our program, and that we've seen success from, is we're not telling them to introduce or to talk about something that's been taught to them at uni, or from some trainings that they attend. we're basically encouraging them to talk about a story that has been passed on, or knowledge that has been passed on from generations after generations, from their forefathers to their father, and that's been passed on to them, and that's something they've been taught throughout their years growing up. So when we've turned that into agritourism experiences out in farms, in rural communities, just the excitement, the confidence that these farmers have and their families in sharing those experiences through agritourism experiences with visitors into their farms, you can see excitement in both, not just the visitor, but the host too, in learning something that's different, that's very meaningful for both. And so for us, the approach that we've taken in using agritourism, you see, I'm highlighting a lot more regenerative agritourism, is the success from that is that it helps provide additional income for farmers, because let's face this, the challenge that we have is a lot of our small scale farmers are at risk of losing their farms to big corporates, and without them having additional income support, that is a risk for island destinations. So I'll just quickly jump onto the topic for this evening. We're talking about overcoming island challenges. We have food production through sustainable farming. If Christian, if I was able to expand on that, I would reword it and say food and nutrition security for through sustainable farming for our communities, island communities. Though, having said that, we at Regenerative Vanuatu believe sustainable is no longer enough for small island states. Hence, we are focusing more on regenerative systems. So unfortunately, I'm not able to share my screen. Christian?
Yes, let's, Jerome, can you stop sharing? And let's see if we can get your slides up. Jerry, would you mind trying?
Yes, I'll try.
You can stop your video because it's frozen, and you can just share your screen. That would be all right.
Okay. Can you see it?
No. All right, so they are loading right now. Would you mind adding that to presentation mode so we can see the full screen?
It's not happening, eh?
If you press F5 on your keyboard.
Yep.
No, that's okay. You can move them there. We won't see the full screen, but we see them.
Sorry about that. So I'll just carry on to, is my video off or is it still?
It's on.
Okay. So basically what I wanted to show and highlight in the rest of my presentation, Christian, is it's important to note, like I'll use Vanuatu as an example. As an island destination, we've been ranked as #1 most disaster-prone destination in the world. And quite recent, we've had just 2 cyclones within a week. And the thing is, after every cyclone, our government spends so much million vatu in purchasing imported rice and tin fish, very unhealthy imported foods that gets distributed to communities. And the sad thing about that is it's coming from the Ministry of Climate Change, the very ministry responsible for promoting and encouraging resilient communities. They have programs in encouraging resilient communities, getting them to go back into their traditional way of being. And at the same time, the very ministry is encouraging purchasing of unhealthy imported foods every time we have cyclones. And so that's very contradictory. So that's a challenge that we are yet to address here. Earlier this year, the World Health Organization published a report I think it was in March or April, if I remember correctly. And it highlighted that out of the top 10 most obese countries in the world, the Pacific Islands make up 9 of the top 10, and makes up 9, total of 9 countries out of the top 10, and that's very concerning. And for going back to Vanuatu, a small island destination that has a population of just over 300,000 people, we get 2 amputees per week. That's very sad. And when talking about food, with the colonized mindset, we're still dealing with that. We see a lot of apologizing to our visitors by locals when serving them local food sorry, we're serving you this, we don't have rice, or that is something that we're yet to address. There is a shift in addressing that, but it's not enough, while big corporates are pushing with campaigns to promote unhealthy living. So, and also, it's not just Vanuatu. We're seeing this message, concerning messages that keeps going out in encouraging small subsistence farming in rural communities to move away, to elevate them away from those commercial, good cultural farming, to focus more on the export under the tagline food security. But the question that we need to keep asking ourselves is, food security for who if we're exporting good, healthy food and then bringing in unhealthy food for our communities? How is that? So in terms of what Regenerative Vanua is doing in the space of food systems, we've developed a framework that basically encourages support towards small-scale farms, because we see the importance in small rural farms in providing consistent supply of food for the population, communities also especially. So what we have as an alternative income source for farmers, what we have done through our programs is we've developed our regenerative agritourism recognition pathway program, and also our stewardship agreements. So as opposed to working towards and encouraging small-scale farmers to work towards certification, we have developed the first regenerative agritourism standards, but that is more so for data collection, not certification. What we've done is we've created our regenerative agritourism recognition pathway program. So recognizing each and every farms differently, contextualizing our approach, encouraging them to tell their own stories. And by doing that through agritourism experiences, we promote to encourage visitors that are looking for those kind of experience to go and have those experiences. And by that too, we address the issue of leakage. So apart from the agritourism experiences through the recognition program, we also have, under the stewardship agreements with those communities that we work with, allow for payments for ecosystem services and also biodiversity credits. And so to date, what we're doing now with the Global Agritourism Network, since I am the chair of the Pacific region, we're working with the Pacific Islands Forum to roll out our regenerative agritourism recognition program throughout the Pacific. And that's a work in progress that we've started working on. So framework is yet to be developed to see how we can work collectively with the island member countries to roll that program out. And so the key here, Christian, is our recognition program is about taking away the time and burden that's always been placed on farmers to work towards certification. And we've seen that with organics. We've all seen that. And with sustainable tourism. The cost, it's too costly for those small farmers to afford. And the complexity in understanding those standards, the time consuming, taking them away from their core activity, and that should be farming. And that's what they're good at, and that's what we should be encouraging to do. But if we're getting them to work towards certification, we're taking away their time, and it's a lot of burden placed on the farmers. So in summary, what I'd like to say is the challenges that we are facing with today with regards to sustainable food production for small island destination is us moving away from our traditional knowledge system that's been there for so long. It's proven to be successful. Why are we encouraging our small farmers to move towards a monofarm, commercial farming at a large scale, and that whether we realize it or not, we're killing the small farmers, and they play a very important role in our communities. So all we should be doing, as opposed to encouraging them by using those kind of lines in saying we need to elevate them, that's so wrong. What we need to be doing is providing alternative sources of income for them so they can sustain their farms. And to conclude, if we're talking about sustaining our food production through good farming practices, all I can say is the traditional knowledge that has been there for centuries after centuries is key for small island destinations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jerry, for your presentation. I would like to ask the panelists to turn on your video and your microphones again for the Q&A section part. Unfortunately, the senator from Hawaii has had to step aside for an emergency, so he won't be able to stay for the Q&A part, but he sends his regards to the panel. All right, so let me just start the Q&A with this question. What are some of the most promising opportunities for sustainable food production, and how can these opportunities be leveraged to address food security concerns? You're all welcome to add your points here.
So I think, being an island, we've talked about some of the challenges, but absolutely there are opportunities. And I would say some of the areas we see are supporting some of the freight challenges to make both the import and export market more viable for our farmers, in terms of them bringing in what they need to produce and then exporting the extra that they might produce to allow them to get to a sustainable sort of scale for their business. And we recognise that's a challenge being a small island. But also looking at the future entrance into farming. I think it's really important that we talk about farming not just as an older person's hobby. We see a huge number of young farmers on the island, but they're struggling to be able to stay in farming. And I think that's an area we're really focused in on, and it will be a real core strand around our agricultural strategy and food security piece. And looking at how we innovate and support people in terms of grants through vertical farming, different models of farming that are definitely different to the traditional livestock as our primary farming and some of the arable cropping, looking to move into different areas. And one of the pieces we're trying to do is actually talk with the businesses who use our foods and say, what are the foods you have and what are the things we could substitute with that we can grow here? The reality is our climate's not good for avocados, but there's some massive opportunities around alternates that could be used in some of those recipes. We want to support our farmers around diversification as well. I think energy security is a big piece for us as an island, in the same way food security. They're almost interchangeable, actually, when you start the conversation. And the agri-tourism opportunity. We have a number of people who've diversified sections of their farm into tourism, but I think there's further we can go, and I think people absolutely pay for those experiences. And for us, and I think every island, the identity of us is so important. I noticed there was another question around identity, and I really think as an island, trading on your identity is so vital. And we have a very strong cultural heritage. Our language is really booming in terms of people wanting to learn our traditional Manx Gaelic. And I think embracing all of that and incorporating it into our food networks is absolutely critical.
Well, I'll also jump in here, Christian, and just to once again say the opportunities in the Caribbean region are very similar to what Honorable Minister Barber just identified. When you look at the Caribbean region, interconnectivity between the Caribbean islands, that presents a huge opportunity, moving people, goods, and services between the islands. Right now, there's no regional ferry service, but we are seeing opportunities arising where ferry services are being introduced, which will help the movement of food amongst the islands, because the shipping rates in the Caribbean region are some of the highest in the world, given that we're also disconnected. We look at investments in technology. So there are a number of projects that are available to invest in agri-technology. So as I mentioned, drone farming, using apps, development of apps. There are huge opportunities that are presenting themselves so that farmers can integrate this technology into their operations and become more efficient. Container farming and hydroponics as well. We're starting to see a lot of opportunities come up in those areas that the young persons, as Honorable Minister said, that the young persons are getting involved in. And I also want to note that, if we have to promote these investments, we have to improve many countries. If you look at Guyana, if you look at Suriname, if you look at Belize, they are offering packaged opportunities for investors to come and invest in the Caribbean region. So you're actually getting land parcels that you can access at a very low rate so that you can invest in to build these types of farms. So there are a lot of incentives for foreign direct investment, for investment in agriculture in the Caribbean region. So I'll stop there for now.
Thank you so much, both of you, for that. I have a question from our audience. Kizan Zami asks, what can be done to encourage more young women or women in general to be commercial farmers in small islands? Women often support peripherally, but most registered farmers continue to be men, according to this member of the audience. Who would like to say a few remarks?
So I'm happy to kick off. We have quite a broad demographic, certainly across our young farmers. And I think one of the things that's really helped that actually is we have a really strong young farmers club network on the Isle of Man. Following the UK model, I don't know if this is something that's had elsewhere, but it's not just supporting people in farming. There's a huge amount around sheep shearing, livestock judging. We do dead and livestock judging shows are run through the young farmers, and we support that through government, and I think that's really important. But also they have a really good social life, and I think it has to be the balance. So they build strong networks, they do debating, they put on an annual tractor run at Christmas. There's all the other things that peripherally go with it, but while also putting on those knowledge exchange and sharing programs. And I see as government our role to support those, to support through financial grants, but also as a facilitator to make space available for that to happen. But I think any programs that already exist that we can support through are absolutely the place we should be providing financial support on an island basis. But also ensuring that people have access to go to alternate courses. We know that on the Isle of Man, we don't have a university that does agriculture, for example. So we have been able to get some courses set up at our local university college. But the reality is if people want to go to agriculture college, they need to go to England, Ireland, they need to travel. And so there are also support mechanisms we have through our work with our Department of Education in that regard too.
From just to chime in also from the Caribbean region, I mean, we have to make agriculture exciting for young people. I mean, the vision of when young people think about agriculture in the Caribbean region is people standing in the sun all day tilling crops, and that's not it. It's so much more exciting than that, and it's actually contributing towards the development of the region. So we have to introduce these ideas and these concepts at a very early age. So we have to introduce them at the schooling level. And we're starting to see that type of progress in the Caribbean region, where at the primary school level, they're introducing courses and criteria for agriculture. And we have to continue to build that up. The main university in the Caribbean region is the University of the West Indies. They have 3 campuses located in some of the large islands, but the small islands, they're starting to expand into distance learning, but they're starting with sort of the traditional disciplines. We have to get agriculture into those disciplines so that we can reach our young people in these islands. And I want to reiterate as well, by investing in these exciting, young people are excited about technology, about apps, about drones, about these types of things. If we can get them excited about the technology I think that's where we go. And I also want to address the women issue. We're starting to see more and more women farmers being established in the Caribbean region. But to continue along that pace, we have to recognize the challenges that women farmers face. Often, women, in addition to being farmers, are the head of their households. They have to take care of their children. They have to take care of their households as well. We have to provide support for these women farmers so that they can devote their time to farming, childcare, transportation, make sure that they can get from their homes to their farms safely. These are the types of challenges that we have to identify if we have to encourage more women. And we have to provide the support infrastructure as well, technical assistance, training that are catered to the distinct challenges that women farmers face, and not just farmers in general. That's how I think we can get more women farmers excited.
Thank you so much. Jerry, from Vanuatu, what is the perspective there? What is the ratio from men to women being farmers? Do you know?
There's no exact data that I could share with you, but just from the work that we've been doing with those communities, and especially farmers that we've been doing work with, women here play a very important role in ensuring the success of the farms, the setup, the business aspect of it. But I'll just go straight to adding on to emphasizing an issue that we're seeing, and not just with women being involved in farming, but in general farmers. It's an issue that it's looked down upon as a trade, and that's something that we are working together with the Pacific Islands Forum and the Global Agritourism Network in finding ways to change that. It shouldn't be looked down upon, and yeah.
Thank you so much for that. We have more questions coming in from our audience, but I have a question here that I wanted to ask the whole panel, and it is regarding climate change. Given this increasing threat, we have seen it happen. Islands are the most affected places in the globe by climate change and are the ones that produce the least amount of pollution. But what are the most effective strategies to adapt island agriculture to these ever-changing conditions? How can farmers and communities build resilience to climate-related risks?
I can start. I mean, it all boils down to technology, because at the end of the day, climate change is absolute. It's affecting the actual conditions of growing crops, like I mentioned before: soil degradation, weather, rain, floods, droughts. These are all realities that are rising tides. These are all realities that small island developing states face. And that's a fact. So what we have to do is we have to find a way. I mean, mitigation for climate change, there's little that small island. We are the most affected, but there's little that we can do to change that. I mean, what we produce is just a drop in the bucket compared to developing states. And again, these are facts, undisputed. What we have to do is to utilize the technologies that are available to promote that amongst our farmers so that they can increase their crop yields and increase their efficiencies. And we need the support to do that. We need the support from the international donor communities. We need the support from developed countries so that we can channel these resources to our farmers and bring the technology to them so that we can mitigate the effects of the impact of climate change on our crop yields, and we can improve our food security. And that would be my recommendation.
I touched a little bit on it during the presentation, and the development of the agri-environment scheme, which was absolutely designed to bring these two strands together and provide financial reward, I suppose, for initiatives that are in the right direction. But we've been working very closely with the local farming union in terms of bringing some new initiatives on board. One of those is around the Soil Mentor app. And then the second one is around the Farm Carbon Toolkit. One of the challenges we have actually is getting the baseline data. So from looking at the styles of farming we believe we're probably in a stronger baseline position than some of our counterparts where there's real intensive farming. certainly some of the data from America, for example, or even the UK. So we really feel we're in a better position, but we need to be able to back that up with data. And the farmers are, supportive of that, because I think it's fair to say they've had quite a lot of negativity towards them in terms of a feeling that because they're heavily engaged in livestock production, that actually they're part of the problem. Whereas I think it's very clear from a lot of the work we're doing that they're absolutely part of the solution. And we want to make sure we're working with them and we can demonstrate that. So engaging them and supporting those apps and making sure that they're island specific, because I think that's really important as well. The reality is we're different to what there might be elsewhere, and we need to make sure that's absolutely captured in bespoke applications, which is why when you have technology, it's great, but it's got to be the right technology.
Thank you. Jerry, would you like to add something to that? Jerry? Okay, so he might be experiencing some technical issues. Sorry. Let's go with one question here from Jory Bandon. What is the experience with indoor vertical farming in islands? And there's another question here. Is CO2 used to increase productivity in such controlled environments?
So, I mean, I'll kick off, but predominantly to say that while we recognise this as an area that we want to move into, actually it's an area where on the Isle of Man we're really not in that space just yet. So I don't have that information. I do know we have one or two people who've started to move on a small scale into the microgreens and mushroom farming area, but they've done that on their own initiative, actually with very little support from government, and we're quite keen to understand a little bit more about where they're at, but I can't answer that in detail, so happy to hand over to Damien and see where you're at in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the territory. So when you look at the larger territories in the region, the Jamaicas, the Trinidad and Tobago's, the Dominican Republics, Belize and Guyana and Suriname as well, you see that there are pockets of these types of vertical farming coming up. I mean, we in our Caribbean Investment Forum, we highlight a number of these. I mentioned Island Growers LLC out of Trinidad and Tobago. They're doing great work with container farming. I mean, but again, the support has to be there, as Minister Barber noted. We have to support not only from a financial point of view, from a technical assistance point of view, and from a technology point of view. And you're starting to see we're trying to be the leader in that area through private sector development funds. But from an ease of doing business and a policy environment, the governments are enacting their policies to really support. So making some of the equipment that are imported tax-free, making it readily available, making the services available. We're starting to see this sort of go in that direction with the 25 and 25 initiative. But overall, I would say it's moving in that direction, but there's still a long way to go. I wouldn't say we're close to anywhere that we need to be, but we're moving in the right direction, and I'm happy to hear about it.
Thank you so much both for your participation. And since we are a little bit over time, let's begin with the closing remarks. Minister Barber.
So, I think it's absolutely proven to me just how much we have in common. So we may be geographically apart, but, we all face very similar challenges and very similar opportunities. And I'm absolutely keen to continue the conversation. So as I say, I re-extend that invitation, both for anyone to reach out so we can continue the conversation through email, but equally if people want to come and visit, we'd be absolutely delighted to facilitate that as well. So that's an open invitation to various countries that I can see represented in the chat, and many others who I'm sure haven't contributed there, but it's really exciting to hear from so many different places actually.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Damien?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the Virtual Island Summit and Island Innovation for hosting this. I mean, it's really been an eye-opener hearing from Minister Barber and Senator Gabbard. I mean, we can learn so much from each other, small island states, small island developing states as well, even though Hawaii is part of the US, they still face their challenges. So I'm eager to continue to learn and listen I think that's important at this stage so that we can share our experiences and come up with solutions together. I have to attend the Shogam Summit in Samoa later this year. And to get there, I have to fly through Hawaii and I have to fly through Fiji. And I'll be in Samoa. So that's a unique opportunity to learn from 3 island states that we can learn from. So I'm going to keep my ears and eyes open when I'm on the ground. And I really hope to make it to the Isle of Man as well. It's on my bucket list.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Jerry, are you with us? Unfortunately, it seems that we lost Jerry due to some technical difficulties. Connectivity is also another issue that we face on islands, especially remote islands like Vanuatu. And I hope that more technological solutions can help, like satellite connectivity, for example. That is something to explore. And we have had some sessions regarding connectivity and islands. It's an ever-ending challenge that I hope islands can overcome in the future with new technology. Now, I would like to say the following. I think that we can all agree that working together to promote sustainable practices, support local farmers, and ensuring food security for our island communities is the end goal that will allow this to succeed. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Thank you, Senator Gabbard, who has to step out for some duties. Thank you, Minister Barber. Looking forward to visiting the Isle of Man in the future. Thank you, Damie, and I'm glad that you are going to be able to travel to the Pacific to learn about the experiences there. And thank you, Jerry from Vanuatu as well. Thank you, everyone who attended today's session. But I want to share with you, if you missed it on our opening session, we have very exciting news. Island Innovation is partnering with the government of St. Kitts and Nevis to host the second Global Sustainable Island Summit. After this year's experience, we hosted it in Prince Edward Island in Canada. Now the Caribbean takes the spotlight. The summit will be held from May 27 to the 29 in 2025, and we will be discussing solutions and advancements in sustainable energy. Please note that all of the attendees of the Virtual Island Summit can get additional discounts, and please check out the chat for more details. Our comms team is adding that information right now. I would like to also invite you to join us for the upcoming sessions today. This was the first session of the day, but we have plenty more. This is the final day of the Virtual Island Summit. I would also please ask you to answer our form, our feedback form that is also being shared in the chat. Let us know how your experience was during the Virtual Island Summit. We are always open for suggestions. Our next session is coming up in 1 hour, or in 2 hours, sorry, in the importance of safekeeping indigenous cultures and languages. Very important session. I would please encourage you to attend. It's coming up in 2 hours. We will have representatives from indigenous groups from the Pacific, from the Caribbean, and also we will have the Chief of Section of the Indigenous Knowledge Systems at UNESCO presenting there. It's going to be very interesting. And after that, we will have a session about voices from the Mediterranean, and we will take a look at the Observatory for Small Italian Islands. And then we will have another session, Voices from the Caribbean, a fireside chat with the Prime Minister of Grenada. Looking forward to that session as well. And our closing session is going to be a Circular Economy Solutions Showcase. So please do not miss it. We will have a lot of people presenting new technology for circular economy, which is very important for islands around the globe. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you to our wonderful panelists for your interventions. Looking forward to seeing you in the next session. Thank you so much.